BJ Counsel. I view the world through the lens of having been followed by a white clerk as a child while shopping in a five and dime. I'm a retired police executive and own UN50, which gives guidance on surviving interactions with police.
I'm Harmony Chavis, and I view the world through the lens of one of the most misunderstood and diverse generations in our nation's history. I'm a social worker and a believer of radical kindness and love as modalities of healing.
My name is Andrew Counsel. I view the world through the lens of a generational camera phone. I wake up as a black male and go to bed as a black male. I am surviving this never-ending court case we commonly call life in the best way I know how.
Welcome back. This is UN50, and my name is BJ Counsel, and UN50 is a business that we go around and we help people learn how to navigate law enforcement safely. We've been doing this for about 5 years, and we just started our podcast about a month or so ago. And we talk about things that deal with police brutality and the movement that's going on, Black Lives Matter. It's a pretty wide range of discussion, but primarily it's based in, because I'm a retired police executive with the Durham City Police Department, various conversations that center around law enforcement, and maybe sometimes it does not, depends on what's going on. I have two co-hosts with me, and one of the things that we try to do is also just talk about, as I'm a boomer, have a Gen Z and a millennial, and we just talk about how this moment and everything that's happening to us. And I'm going to let Harmony introduce our guest, and before the guest speaks, then we'll kind of talk about anything that we kind of usually start out just kind of gabbing a little bit. But we also, because of this moment, and because we're Black folk, we realize that this moment is, everything going on is traumatic to the Black bodies and minds and those things. And we also realize that as a Black culture, that we don't seek counseling. And the three of us are very familiar with that. I know I have used mental health ex-professionals, and Harmony can give you a little bit of insight for her. That is something that we believe in, and that we can help the community, and we want to just say it's okay. It's okay during this moment. So I'm going to have Harmony introduce our guest, and before the guest joins us, like I said, we're just going to talk to the co-hosts if they have anything extra they want to talk about. So Harmony, if you will introduce our guest.
Okay, so this is her text intro. Brionna Harpe, who is a licensed clinical social worker associate, works at a local community mental health agency in Greensboro, North Carolina. To me, that was like way too modest. Bri is like my absolute best friend in the whole wide world. She's literally one of my favorite humans. And I just always love that Bri finds the most compassionate way to speak truth to power. And she does it in a way that is just drenched in so much love and so much compassion, and always managing to see the other side. So, I just appreciate her so much in my life, and who she's been for me, and who I know she's been to, quite a few of her clients as well. So very honored and lucky to have her in my life, and also on this podcast today. Hey, Bri!
Hi, Harmony, my heart. Aww. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Aren't we precious? Aren't we precious? I feel like we need a shirt or something, for sure.
We do. I think we should. We definitely should.
Yeah, I can feel the sugar coming out of the computer right now.
Haters be like.
I know, right?
But it's fine. I'll give you a pass. So the reason that we brought Bri here today, like BJ said, is really to just discuss a couple of complexities. Mental health is complex in and of itself, but Bri, we were also interested in your perspective as a social worker of color, as a Black woman, kind of what this experience has been like for you as you're also trying to navigate this space of COVID, a lot of police brutality, and also taking care of your clients. And if you could just also give us just a little bit more background about the clientele that you serve and the type of work that you do.
Sure. I full disclosure, I may have to ask you to ask me those questions again because I may forget as I go on this rant or talk. But just starting out, I do work at a local community health agency. We do serve those who are uninsured, underinsured, trying to get, catching the rest of the people that often fall through the cracks. So usually people low income, I think that pretty much explains it. But what I do is offer individual therapy and group therapy. I currently run the substance use group at my agency. We do a group on Thursdays at 1:00 where I do the substance use group, and then the rest of my week is kind of just sprouted doing assessments and again individual therapy. I think that serves the first question. Can you ask me the second question?
And so a lot of the work that you do is working with people that are struggling with substance use disorder. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
And so that in itself makes them a little bit more vulnerable to these traumatic events, yes?
Absolutely.
And so my next question was just how have you been navigating self-care, processing all of this stuff, grieving all of these different things, but also having to show up for your clients in such a profound way as well?
It has been very difficult, to say the least. There's so many different emotions. So on one hand, as a Black woman, I'm the only Black therapist in my center. So I feel like I have an important role in engaging, Black people and having these conversations, and also having these conversations with some of my white peers about making sure that they're having conversations with their Black clients. On top of that, seeing it every day, it's hard, and to be quite honest, I hope this is a safe space. I have put off going to therapy for years, and I just started back. And if that's truly telling of where this, and then the pandemic, this has just been a lot. So I'm grateful I started therapy again.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's so important too that we talk about therapy with this type of openness, right? Where you say, I hadn't been going, but I am going now, and as a therapist, that's very telling of where we are collectively. I think that's an extremely brave position to take. I've said before in this podcast, I go to therapy. I take antidepressants, and I try to do so in a way that affirms other people's right to exist like that as well. So I remember when I was younger, I would always sneak to take my medication. I didn't want my employers to know that I needed medication, which honestly, probably still not, because people are just, shitty in general. But even around my friends, I just felt this deep rooted shame that I had to take this medication basically for me to be a functional, happy, healthy version of myself.
Andrew, do you have anything? Because I want to make sure everybody knows I got another coat. Andrew, do you have any input, or that we're going to be talking about this topic?
No, I thank Bri for being here, and I'm interested in hearing her insight in some of the issues that we discussed.
Thank you.
Yeah, Bri, I think for me, one of the reasons we wanted, it's trying to. Harvey and I did a presentation a few weeks ago, and predominantly Black males. And one of the things that's kind of how we kind of started about, we need to deal with this issue. And watching a Black man being killed, it's traumatic. And like you said, everything that's going on. So I kind of just want some help with how do we tell, in particular, Black males, this is traumatic. You're just constantly seeing Black bodies being killed by law enforcement. How do you deal, how can I say? I'm just kind of trying to figure out a way to say it's got to be impacting you, and you need to acknowledge that you're feeling some kind of way, and then how to deal.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How do we get, especially Black, not just only Black males, but I'm just kind of leaning toward them because that's whose bodies we see a lot. Not the
absolutely.
So how do we say, please acknowledge the fact this is causing you trauma? Just acknowledge that. How do you do that?
So I don't know about you, but I think my experience with Black men and trying to open up these conversations, usually at least my experience, they usually kind of like shot it down or try to make a joke of it or something like that, not really kind of denying it in a way or not wanting to acknowledge the pain. So I think for me, first and foremost, starting with it's okay to acknowledge it. And so when you do bring up these conversations with Black people, and I will say men and women, because I think it's traumatizing for both of us. Right. But I would say, just normalize the conversation. So when there is that, oh no, I'm fine or something, saying, look, I'm not okay. So being first and open, saying I'm not okay with this. Mm-hmm. This is a safe space to have this conversation and not allowing them to kind of fall back on the default. Because what we do realize is that, when you ask, how are you? People typically want to hear good. They don't want to hear the real. And so kind of pushing back on, I don't want to hear the good of what you think I want to hear. I want to hear how you actually feel and creating that space. I think that's the most important thing at this time, because I don't think there's really ever been a time where Black men could be safe to be vulnerable.
You know what? And I appreciate that, because Harmony can kind of test that, because that's what we did at the presentation. I basically had a slide during my presentation and I said, I'm not okay. Because it's traumatic to me. I'm not trying to not talk about Black women, but just because, we keep.
Yes. I understand.
Yeah. But we did do that. I put it out and said, look, I'm not okay. I'm seeking counseling because this is just traumatic. So I appreciate you validating that, because that's what I want to continue to do as I do the U and 50 presentations, talking about interacting with police, but just also say during these presentations, look, this is traumatic. I'm not okay. This is difficult to do. So just you validating that makes me know I need to continue to do that. So the space. Absolutely. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. I just don't think we're going to go far if we don't have a safe enough space to be able to do that.
So how do we were talking about on the last podcast, the youth, their anger toward law enforcement and this, just wanting to, I don't want to say want to be aggressive, but how do we help youth navigate law enforcement with, trying to, what we talked about was kind of how to get them to just stay within their own emotions, because those are the only ones, the only person they can have control. Because if they kind of be aggressive, it could lead to them being harmed and or killed. So how do we kind of help them navigate this, not that they shouldn't be angry with police officers. I'm not taking that away from them, but how can we help them navigate that safely?
Right. Absolutely.
Recognize you pissed, but I also need you to get to the house.
Right. Exactly that part. So basically, how can I make sure that you come home at night? Which is in itself. I'm just going to leave that there. But I think that question really kind of goes back to, how are we displaying, our anger? So it's nothing wrong with experiencing anger. Where the problem comes in is how you express it and how you react. And what we do know is that Black men are perceived to be more threatening than some our white people. And so we have to kind of move accordingly. And so, to be quite honest, it pisses me off that I have to say this, but I do think we need to go about different ways of being able to express anger in more healthy ways. And I think that also kind of falls back into, Black men being told that they can't really express anything other than anger or happiness, but can't do anything less with the vulnerability. They do say that anger is the secondary emotion. So get into a place of what is the primary emotion that you're feeling and then processing that. I do think things like therapy would be helpful. I think things like introducing mindfulness in schools and primary schools at a young age, teaching people how to process emotions, how to be mindful in a moment. I think these are skills that honestly need to be implemented in schools. I think they need to be implemented at home. I think these are the kinds of things that will be helpful, especially in the long run, with how to feel it but not react in an aggressive way.
Wow. Totally agree with that. Now I can see why you and Harmony are best friends. Yeah, loving it. Absolutely loving it. And I'm gonna. Andrew is my nephew, and he said something a few weeks ago. Andrew, I'm gonna put you on the spot. That my brother, his dad, didn't show a lot of emotions, as an example for Andrew. So, Andrew, can you kind of talk about that just a little bit? Just kind of bring that conversation back up a little bit.
Yeah, of course. I guess I can speak on my specific, my specific experience, and then kind of talk about what that kind of showed me just in general. But I would say my father doesn't show a lot of emotion just as a human in general. And I've seen him cry, or show a lot of emotion just in general. I can count on one hand how many times he's done that. It wasn't I wouldn't say like a model for me as to show me how to show emotion, how to express my emotions fully. And I know I've been to therapy myself personally. But I know that it's a taboo and a stigma, when it comes to Black males just in general. So, I think that, taking my personal experience and kind of looking at it at a general view, it kind of just shows me that I know that my relationship with my father kind of models and is mirrored by other relationships when it comes to Black men and their sons just in general. So if my father doesn't do it, then who am I going to learn it from? I guess what I would say. But so I guess I would want other Black men and other Black young individuals to kind of learn on their own how to express their emotions, and to know that it's not a crime or not bad to go to therapy and to express themselves fully, and to be aware of their emotions themselves. I mean, I think that's a fear in just the Black community, just in general, when it comes to Black men. Then you bring in church, you bring in, other things that kind of, you understand, the other things that just kind of deviate from the norms of what society has been teaching us.
Absolutely. So I'm sorry. I just want to say this. You guys are, reflecting on something that I've been, or I guess vocalizing some things that I've been reflecting on. And I think, I'm not sure if my other coworkers have kind of seen this, but one of the things that I have recognized in, assessing clients, more often than not, I have the Black clients that I have come in, I just want to do therapy. I don't want to do medications, or it took me a long time to get here, because I really didn't know how I was going to feel about therapy. And then on the other hand, I have a lot of white clients coming in. I want therapy. I want this. I want that. I want the meds. And so it's just such a big, just change between the two. And I think what you guys are sharing is definitely, kind of echoing the things that I'm seeing as I'm navigating this field.
Wow, that's interesting. That's really interesting. So, I mean, I get it's good to know that Black folks are coming in to see you.
Yes, but they are few far between.
Yeah, wow. So, how do you? Well, I mean, I know you said we need to do mindfulness in schools, and so how do we help that? How do we promote that? To say we need to have folks, in churches and where Black folks are, say, folks, come on now, it's okay. I mean, how do we make this okay in the community, in our community? How do we make it?
That is such a wonderful question, and I'm not sure if I have the best answer. But I do think, again, it doesn't take a special person. You don't have to have letters behind your name. You don't have to have a degree. You just have to have a passion and a care for the community. Anybody, I think, can start a group or kind of gauge interest, begin having these conversations in your community. Hey, I see you, like I see you in pain. Let's come over here and talk about it. Let's engage people. I think things like that are helpful. I think you could also go another route. I think, some people who tend to be more logical or analytical could do studies about how beneficial these things are. Actually, there are studies about how beneficial these things are. Let's talk to, our local politicians, talking about funding money through that, talking about how beneficial this will be for the community. I think there are different things, that we can all do depending on your strengths, about how to kind of get engaged and get ready to make a change.
And I really appreciate what you said. Harmony had mentioned, I don't remember Harmony, what you were talking about, but Bri, the fact that you were saying you're helping underinsured, low income, and that's so, I mean, thank you. Because because those are the communities where there's just a lot of trauma.
Absolutely.
Well, just trying to make it from day to day. Not even not that's taking away the George Floyd stuff. It's just even before that.
Right.
People trying to make it.
Just trying to make it.
Yeah, and need, because that's just stressful. That's stressful.
Bri, I have a quick question. I guess like something that kind of brought to my mind when you were talking, when BJ was just talking about your specific work in the community that you work with. I guess my question would be, what advice or what would you recommend people or students or young individuals, because I know that there's a certain connotation when it comes to young individuals going to therapy and seeking help for their mentality. And I know I can speak on my own experience when I was in high school and seeing students going to therapy or actually seeking help. There was a connotation that they were crazy, or there's like there's like a certain negative connotation that is associated with it. And I think that should be deleted and should be thrown away, because I feel like people who, they have a different strength in my eyes. But what would you recommend, I guess, younger people to do to kind of help encourage others to seek help if they need it, or to throw away that negative stigma that's associated with it?
I think that really kind of goes back to the normalizing, normalizing these conversations. I think even, I don't know if you guys watch Insecure, but I love Insecure.
I watch it by default, but go ahead.
But, things like that. I love how Insecure brought in, just because I am here, I forget his name. But the guy that said that he had bipolar disorder, kind of having these conversations, normalizing and having these conversations, saying that it is okay, and, being forthcoming, so you don't have to disclose anything if you don't feel comfortable doing so. Not encouraging that. But if you do feel comfortable, sharing, I'll also go to therapy. If you see someone struggling, if you see that someone is acting different, trying to open up these conversations. I think sometimes the other piece about normalizing these conversations is that, we kind of have to open ourselves up to kind of hearing some things that are kind of hard to hear. But being okay with that, someone's pain is hard to hear, because you don't want to hear, their pain, obviously, especially if there's someone you love. But being okay with, I love you through your pain. I'm here to support you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I had a call today that not a friend of mine, but really, I know somebody said, no, it was mine, but no, it seriously wasn't. But they had been told that somebody was going to commit suicide, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was telling them, you need to find out, do they have a plan? So I kind of just because I've heard that, and some friends of mine have heard that. So what are some things that, just generic, if you have it, that you should, when somebody says that to you,
yes,
what should be at least one or two things you need to say immediately, because it's uncomfortable. Okay.
Right. It is. It is.
So just to help somebody navigate that, when somebody says that to them, what can we offer to our listening audience to say, this would be really helpful if you say X when somebody tells you, I'm feeling suicidal, or I'm going to commit suicide. So giving them some tips as to what they can do.
So I think with starting with what you said, tell me, do you have a plan? And then kind of talking about what plan that is. What are you going to use? Are you going to use a razor to try to split your wrist? Are you going to try to hang yourself? Do you have access to a weapon, like a gun or anything that you can kind of use? Kind of want to assess means of access as well. I think that's definitely important. What would it take for you not to do it? When are you planning on do it is a big question. Are you actively saying on this date, this is what you're going to do? It's also possible if you are, a distance away from someone, you are always more than welcome to call the non-emergency line and do a wellness check for someone. Now, again, I know we're talking about trauma from, police officers and police brutality. So, being mindful there, but, knowing that is also an option there.
And then my other half, she's a nurse. She also was saying that asking people because I just know as a fear, people say, well, I shouldn't ask about it because they might do it. And no, that's a myth. So talking about it to the person who said that doesn't mean they're going to do it anymore.
Absolutely.
So I want to make sure that that's clear too.
Yes.
I had that thing in the back of my, well, I don't want to say anything, cause
yes.
they do it. They were like, no, if they're going to, they're going to. So I was like, and I know I know that as a professional that, from law enforcement, folks don't do whatever they're going to do. So I just want to absolutely validate that asking someone like that doesn't mean you're not going to be making them do something.
Absolutely. No. Honestly, I truly think, and I would say a piece of that is kind of born into the piece that doesn't really want to know that answer because it's really uncomfortable. But I do think it's absolutely important, are you going to commit suicide? Saying those words, saying that I see you enough to see that you're in pain and I'm concerned for your life. Honestly, you not saying something is not going to stop them. You saying something is not going to stop them. If someone's going to do something, they're absolutely going to do it. The other side of that I also want to say is I think there is a huge difference from like thoughts of suicide and thoughts of suicide with intentions on acting on them. So I think there is an important line to kind of balance, which is kind of dicey and it's definitely a gray area. But, people can experience thoughts of suicide and it's okay. I think people at least once, I'm sure that's crossed everyone's mind at some point. Yeah. And so knowing that, it's okay to have those thoughts, what, we're trying not to do is for you to act on them. What we're trying to do is, keep you safe and keep you here. So yeah, definitely asking these questions, asking these probing questions can definitely in the long run end up saving someone's life, and getting them connected with the services that they need. And even if not, because like I said, people do what they're going to do. Even if not, I think you could walk away knowing that you were there, that you opened the door, you asked those questions, and you did all that you could do.
And you know what? I appreciate you saying that because I'm sure people would be, devastated. But you're saying, as long as you do all you can do, is
absolutely
you were there as much as you could be there for an individual, and I really appreciate that. So I think for me it's just hearing you kind of validate, just letting people know it's okay, or I've been in therapy, just commiserating, I guess maybe that's not the word for it, but just to be able to demonstrate it's okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know how. Maybe I don't know what else you can do to just let people know, because it's just hard, I guess, right? It is to buy into therapy. I guess
it is. And I think it's also one of those things that some people are like this with the coronavirus as well, but it's almost sometimes I think people's approach to it is that they have to experience it before they believe that it exists as well. And so I think that's the other piece that makes this question so hard. Like, how do we engage people, especially if this is not a struggle that you go through?
And since you said, this pandemic that we're with COVID, so I think you mentioned individual and group therapy. Are you doing like, what are they calling it now? Teletherapy?
I am doing telehealth therapy, yes.
Okay. Do you think that makes a difference now? I mean, instead of having to come to you, I can just sit in my comfort of my own home and talk to you over Zoom. Do you think that makes it any easier? That I don't have to go to the office.
Yes and no. So I think it makes ease of access easier. I think I'm seeing more people kind of call in, but I wouldn't say that I'm seeing a lot of people continuing to engage. I will say specifically for my substance use group, I think one thing that definitely has made it difficult is that I don't get to see them on a regular basis. Like I do, but I don't. If that makes sense. Like I can't really fully see them. And so I think it's not as personable either. So I think I feel a little bit more distant from my group members. And so I've had one group member end up relapsing, And I think that kind of speaks to the importance of, you know, being personable, being together, and relying on your support, for sure. And so it's kind of had its ups and downs. Like I said, it has made, I think, access to therapy easier. I've had people kind of call in, you know, on their lunch breaks, you know, because that diminishes the 30-minute drive they would have to take to get to me, right? So things like that have definitely made it easier. But in some aspects, I would say it definitely made it harder.
So I was going to ask you, so what put you on this track?
Well, honestly, I have always, I think, been the therapist friend of my group. I've always been the quote unquote good listener. And so I think it's always, and then I was always told by my family that I was always the emotional child. So I think it was always kind of there. When I was in high school, though, my grandmother went into a nursing home. My grandmother was in Georgia. I was in North Carolina at the time with my family. And I actively remember my dad having to call the nursing home to tell them to bathe her, to feed her. Like he was on top of them. And I just thought it was ridiculous. So I ended up trying to research, and this was senior year, trying to research, you know, how I can, long story short, basically advocate, you know, for the elderly. And so that was kind of how I stumbled into social work. I actually don't want to work with the geriatric population anymore. But that's absolutely what started me on this path.
Wow. Cool. So where did you go to school?
I went to the University of North Carolina, at Greensboro. I don't know why I say UNCG. UNCG, for my undergrad. And then, I got my master's degree from the Joint Master of Social Work program between UNCG and A&T.
No, I know my Andrew, Harmony, and LU, so I got a room full of UNCG people.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really cool. Really cool. Yeah.
I feel like we tend to gravitate towards each other, like UNCG
I think we
folks.
do.
Yeah.
I think we do.
So
you're just a hater. Like, why? I don't understand.
I'm not a hater, Arnie. So do you have anything else for Bri?
No, I don't. I think you covered it all.
Andrew?
I think so too.
Well, I think Bri, if you don't mind, we may have you come back, depending on.
Of course. I'd be more than happy to come back. This is wonderful.
Cool. Yeah, depending on what kind of events that occur that we may want some to help folks deal with. I think in our last podcast, Harmony talked about or asked if I had seen the body cam footage from George Floyd. Because obviously they had, everybody's seen the video from the person who took it, and then they would since have released body cam. And she was asking me if I had seen it, and she hasn't looked at it, but I don't want to see that anymore. I have no desire to see anything else that has to do with the death of that man. So it's just a repetitive viewing of the death of a human being.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
So I know my other half tells me to stop looking. And just get your head out of it. So we got to figure out how to push pause on all this stuff that's happening and backing away from that. So do you have any suggestions? Maybe just for me, because like I said, I spent a lot of time. No, I spent a lot of time looking at videos of police brutality simply because that's the work that I do. And
right.
And but I also know that it's a lot of stuff on the news. So we got to, I think I would encourage our listeners, and hopefully you would support that. You got to turn it off.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I try to encourage this with my clients all the time, actually. Yes. So one of the things that I do suggest, if you're one of those people that I have to check, I would definitely start with, okay, how much are you checking in a day? And then pick a number lower than that number, obviously, that you kind of want to start with. So I feel like some people can go cold turkey, but some of us aren't strong in that. So if we're not a good, cold turkey people, we can start with decreasing. So if you check in your Facebook, or if you're scrolling for these videos and you're doing it probably 6 times a day, okay, so then let's limit ourselves to 4 times. And then after you feel like you got a good handle on that, let's limit it down to 2. I'm also a big fan of social media breaks. I'm quick to take one, especially from Facebook. Can't do it because all the videos. I also try to, I think, again, going back to being mindfulness, making sure that you are being as present as possible, because even though you're not looking at the videos doesn't mean you're not thinking about it. So how can you engage more in what you're doing momentarily? What's something that you've always wanted to do but never did? What's always something that is a comfort for you? For me, I'm good watching TV, eating ice cream, not thinking about anything. So finding what's good for you, and kind of sticking with it, if that is helpful. I hope that's helpful.
That's very helpful. That's fair, because I am a news junkie. I'm constantly.
Do you have the app on your phone? The news app on your phone?
I don't. I just pull it up and just sit and just scroll through the news. That's all I do.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that's really good. So thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome. Can I share one more?
Yeah, go ahead.
For those of you who are the app people, I would say if you are not at a place where you can delete the app, at least turn the notifications off. Because when you get the notifications, you want to click it, you want to see. Of course, they're going to have some title that's going to be drawn because they want you to read the article. So, just turn off the notifications so that that's not one more thing that's reminding you of what's going on.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good advice. So, what's your favorite ice cream?
Oh, I'm somewhere stuck between chocolate chip cookie dough and Oreo ice cream. I can't choose between the two. Those are my favorite.
Oh, I love ice cream. I love it. When you said that, I was like, yep, here we go. Yeah, ice cream. I'm gonna sit there and eat ice cream, which is not a good thing. I'm going to be big as the chair I'm sitting in. But it's all good. So cool. This has been really great, Bri. I mean, awesome. You are, I know I can't see you.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. But I am appreciating the energy. I can tell this is what you're supposed to be doing on your life's journey. So that's huge, and I can appreciate people who understand what their journey is on this earth. So obviously in this universe, and you have done that. So kudos to you and to those individuals that you're helping out, especially the least of us. The least of us. So I appreciate.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That just reaffirmed me in a way that I absolutely needed.
You're quite welcome. So, Andrew, you got anything you want to say to Bri, or any parting words from another UNCG dude that's going to be graduating in a few months?
Congratulations!
Pray that I make it through.
Oh, you will. We will speak positivity into you.
I appreciate hearing you talk. You gave me a lot of good points and encouragement. So I appreciate you for being here.
Thank you.
Harmony?
No, I don't really have anything.
Is that because your mouth is full of chips?
Unfortunately not. But you know what I was thinking? I was like, I cannot wait to go to Waffle House. Like, I'm plotting it right now. So I'm ready to eat. Bri, you know how I'm coming about you. You know what I'm saying? You know how I feel about you. So I won't make anybody listen to that gush fest again. I'll spare you.
Yeah, I know. Thank you, Harmony, for asking Bri, and thank you, Bri, for accepting the invite to come into UN50. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope to be here again.
Yeah, definitely. So, folks, thanks for tuning in to UN50. And just a reminder that, we're going to be going to, instead of weekly, we'll be doing twice a month now. And we look forward to you checking us out on our Facebook. Thanks to Chris Downey, our producer, and our social media guru, A.B. Bradovich. And as always, stay well. Peace.